All right, this episode's all about food plot screening. So if you're into hunting and you're looking at trying to add some screening, stay with us. We've got a special guest, Payson Hermsen.
Hi, this is Tim and Joel. Welcome to Midwest Hunting and Outdoors by Two Dumbasses,
a podcast about the outdoors, hunting,
and being a steward of the land.
Welcome to Midwest Hunting and Outdoors. Today we're going to be talking about food plot and food plot screening, really. And today we have a special guest with us, and Payson Hermsen. And Joel, why don't you take us from here, pal?
Yeah, Payson, why don't you introduce yourself just real quick, and then we're going to talk about screening, which you're an expert on screening, and you've got some techniques that we're going to talk through.
Okay. Well, I'm Payson Hermsen, owner of Payson Plots and Hunting Supplies. Actually, I'm a dealer for Real World, Giant Miscanthus, switchgrass, and it's become a very popular item, and it's always this time of year. Always had to have it pre-ordered, obviously, by March 1st, so it's a very busy time of year to get this stuff in.
Yeah, and Payson, you've mentioned, what time of the year it is. It's March, early March, first week of March, and it's everybody's itching to get into their food plots and things like that. So we did an episode on food plots, but I want to talk about screening, and screening. So when you hear screening, what are hunters really talking about with that, and what's the purpose of screening?
Yeah, so it could be a variety of things. I mean, I know, for instance, like my farm, it's, everything's pretty well visible to the road. So as far as a hunting standpoint, out there, a car goes by, a car stops on the road. I mean, it could clear the field, the food plot, whatever. I mean, I've seen it happen multiple times. So biggest goals going into it is getting the screen built up so we can get that road pretty well blocked off from everything, keep the deer feeling a lot more comfortable. It could be also a big thing for access into a food plot, blind, whatever. I actually planted multiple screens coming out of, a ditch up into a field, and then a blind at the end of it, and could walk right up that morning or night without having any, deer see you. It's really nice. I mean, it's something that kind of, obviously it takes time. I mean, there's certain screens that all screens kind of take a little bit of time, but you can buy screens that, grow 12 to 15 foot, I think, a year. And that's another thing with that is also the seed could, you want a variety of seed that, could spread. If you don't want that, that's something you need to think about. This miscanthus that we're dealing with, and it's been a big thing the last few years, is a huge deal because it does not spread. It grows, maybe a foot or two out from the original planting location. But
so let's hold on to that, because I think you nailed it, right? From a screening standpoint, it's really, I like the words you used, getting the deer as comfortable as they possibly can, and avoiding interaction with humans, and that could be from a road or walking into your stand or walking out. And Tim, you and I both have opportunities in those areas, probably different opportunities. Mine's more road, and yours is probably more walking in path-wise. But so what are some techniques specifically, what are some plants, or what are you using to facilitate the screenings?
Yeah, so the miscanthus is a rhizome. It's basically a root. Comes in 100 count, 5,000 or 10,000 count bags. Each bag will do 17 yards, 3 rows wide, or else, there's every plant's actually spread 18 inches, 12 to 18 inches apart, about 4 to 6 inches deep, maybe a little bit deeper depending on the size of the rhizome. And use tree planters. You can plant it, you can till it. I'd say the best thing to start out is tilling it. You can use a tree planter to get it in the ground, or else you can actually use a small trencher. to just trench a line, 18 inches apart, 3 rows, 5 rows wide, depending on what your ultimate goal is. I mean, 3 rows is a very good start. Maybe in the next, you wait. It takes about, I said 4 to 5 years to probably get your maximum growth, which is 12 to 15 feet tall.
Wow. 12 to 15 feet tall.
Yeah.
I like trees.
Yes, and they are. They're basically like bamboo. That's what they grow pretty fast. I think the first year you could see 7 to 8 feet. I mean, you can. Depends on obviously your soil content and also chemicals. There's actually a lot of chemicals, pre-emergent stuff that you can use with this to keep it clean in order. And switchgrass also. Switchgrass actually another typical could be a screening sense or another thing we forgot to actually touch on as far as the screening and the miscanthus or switchgrass. This stuff actually can be also used for bedding in a way. So some guys actually will plant fields of switchgrass and then miscanthus lined through it for deer to bed. And they love bedding in it because it's thick. It actually provides pretty good wind cover. Could prevent, obviously some sun cover too, depending on the side of it they're on. Too.
So I got a couple questions on this, if
Yep.
that's all right. So on this miscanthus, how big around is this stalk? How long?
Well, when it's new, you just plant it. It's probably the size of,
Your finger?
Pencil?
pretty close to your finger, normal fingers. Yeah, that'd be a pretty good stand. I mean, I think a lot of the stems actually don't get much bigger than that. Maybe at the base, more or less, but then once they start coming through, they're just like kind of look like a sorghum or a corn, basically, but just spread out and vine out. They just, every year, they just keep growing new stems, basically, like a tree, branches or whatever. They actually are almost hard to break once they're starting to get mature. It's hard to like snap them, but they snap like a stick. Like they're thick, strong. I mean, they could last. They actually, for wind cover, they do a very good job. They can hold up in the snow, frost. I know a lot of guys saying they had some nasty ice storms this spring or winter, and they said that stuff stood up great, and especially for being mature plants, they did really well.
So another quick question on this is, so you answered the one on strength. I was wondering how strong it was. Now, let's say I want to kill it, right? Hypothetically speaking, how do you kill it?
That's a good question. So Roundup will kill it, but it's very strong. It could probably last Roundup. I would say the best way to kill it is mow it
And then
down
spray it.
and then spraying as it's starting to regrow, probably with clefidum, with the grass killer.
Okay.
I would say that's a big suggestion. Somebody might have a way better suggestion. I've never had that question before. Everybody's asked me how to keep it alive and not kill anything or kill everything else but the miscanthus. So
I know folks are on both sides of the fence here with this grass. Is what's your point of view on it? I know you sell it obviously, but people would say that, hey, it's invasive. I don't want it creeping into my crops.
It's non-invasive. Yep, it is non-invasive. Does not spread. It does not. It looks like it seeds out. In fact, it does have like a head on it, but I don't think it's just any type of
Just a
seed. It
flower.
could be, but it does not regrow. I mean, the only way to get this thing to grow is to plant that rhizome, that root, to get it to grow. That's the only way to do it. And as far as like, the actual growth of the plant, I mean, it doesn't like wet areas. That's not somewhere this plant likes to thrive. Anywhere that you plant corn and beans, that'd be a good area. That's what it likes. It likes, in fact, it doesn't matter as far as soil samples wise. It's not a huge deal. A pH level is kind of the most important thing with it, but it's not a serious. I've never really seen it not grow anywhere. It does pretty well about
Do well in
anywhere except
shade?
for wet grounds.
We'll do well.
Kind of depends. Yeah. It probably wouldn't if the trees are sucking the the moisture from it. I know that's kind of like a lot of guys like to do it along a fence line that has trees in it. It's almost best to remove the trees and plant the miscanthus.
Like partial shade, and then
Yeah, I think.
and then is there a fertilizer that would?
No, like I said, the pH level with it is pretty similar to corn, but as far as like nitrogen and everything, it does not need that.
Got it.
You can grow it without any of that.
Sorry,
No,
this is all new to me. So,
Go for it.
So, from a life, how long does it live? I mean, does it have a life cycle to it?
Yeah, I think they're saying like 20, maybe 25 years is what they're saying for it. I have no idea if,
Kind of new to the market, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as it goes, 18, 20 years, that's kind of what they're telling us. I obviously I'm 4 years with mine, so I haven't seen any die off. They do get frost burnt from time to time, but they come right out of it. And I've also accidentally sprayed them with Roundup, and they've come out of that too. So
Okay, it's
they're
tough.
a very healthy, hardy plant.
So nice. Since you've got them on your farm, what's some of the benefits you've noticed since you've had it there?
Well, as far as I obviously started the idea of what coming access into my farm. I wanted to plant something that I obviously didn't have to plant every year, so that's why I kind of switched to the miscanthus. But the years previous, I've used frigid forage plot screen, and it has the Egyptian wheat, obviously sorghum and other stuff in it, and it's seeded out, and I still got sorghum plants kind of coming up in it, which I can't kill because everything I spray
It's Roundup
will
Ready.
kill the miscanthus, yes. And they also, just like any other plant, you can use. There are pre-emergents that you can use on this, similar to corn and beans. In fact, it's the same exact pre-emergent that you can use on switchgrass. Like we were saying, you're having issues kind of
Yeah.
clean that up. And there's a lot of chemicals you can spray. Specifically for more broadleaf, but as far as grass, there's actually quinclorac that kills crabgrass and will not kill miscanthus. It's also a big determining factor when your height. Like that grass gets that 3-inch, 6-inch level. You're getting it to a height where it might not kill it as much. But yeah, it wouldn't be a good idea to spray clethodim on it, because obviously that's a grass killer. In some situations it could survive it, but it's a risk, and it's obviously kind of an expensive plant and investment, so I wouldn't want to kill it right away.
All right. Other than the miscanthus, what else are you using for screening?
So corn is a good thing. Like some guys, obviously, if you're not wanting to plant corn every year, miscanthus or switchgrass would be a good alternative. But corn can be a really good screening. There's also a lot of screening product. Whitetail Institute makes I think they call it like a wall something. I can't exactly remember the product name.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen
Barrier or
it.
something.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's products, but with those products, they are a little bit more invasive. They can spread, not too far, but the sorghum, if that sorghum's in it, can definitely seed out. So which, if you don't want that problem, the miscanthus or switchgrass would be something you could use. As far as switchgrass goes, though, I think switchgrass can actually spread certain types of switchgrass, but the switchgrass that Real World actually has, I don't think it will spread near as much as other types. In fact, I believe the growth on this switchgrass is 6 to 8 feet, so it's very tall. And that could be 3 to 5 years by the time you ever see that. But same as the miscanthus, which is 12 to 15 feet. But yeah, it's a good height for that type of screening too.
The nice thing with the grasses is they're perennial, right? Correct. So, like you stated, it might be a little more investment up front, but over the long haul, and the pain and suffering and money wise, it's a good deal.
Yeah, yep. And also, if you can make it work. So, like, say if a guy has a crop field, that they've maybe been ag farming for however long. If you obviously the CRP programs are out there, you can maybe integrate the switchgrass into it and get paid for it to have that tall 6-8 feet grass. I mean, I don't know how specific they want to get with it, but you can always ask. I mean,
Yeah.
It's definitely something to think about, because that's a very tall, switchgrass. And then if you're the cost of it, I think I want to say, I think it went up. It was like $900 a bag for a 50-pound bag last year. I think it's 1,000 now, which does
But it
quite a
plants,
few
probably
acres.
plants a lot. I'm
Yeah, I
guessing.
mean, it does do it's only 4 pounds to the acre is what the rate is. So
Yeah.
it can do quite a bit of ground, but yeah, it's pricey.
Oofta.
Yeah.
Oofta. Yeah. All right. Other creative screening plants, more annual wise. I'm assuming sunflowers might
Yeah,
play into
sunflowers.
that. Egyptian wheat you hear a lot of.
Yes, yeah, and that's in most of those screenings that like Whitetail Institute, Fraser Forage. That's a big one. Egyptian wheat, very very fast growing plant, and obviously it only comes up once a year. I don't think it actually seeds out like the sorghum does.
From a personal experience perspective, I think sunflowers would work, but my experience is the deer like to eat them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but that might be a good
Yeah.
Depending on where you live.
A good mix. Yeah. Yeah. A good mix.
Yeah, and
yeah.
something to keep in mind, like if a guy wants to plant this miscanthus one year, and obviously you're not going to get the screen you want in just the first year, maybe even second year. You could always plant sunflowers or corn or something next to it, because actually a lot of the chemicals that you're going to spray on corn won't kill the miscanthus. I mean, obviously you got to be careful with the Roundup, but atrazine or anything like that's going to be the pre-emerge can also be sprayed right next to this, right over the plants before they emerge, and they'll be fine. So that's kind of what I've done on my farm. I planted corn, miscanthus, and then corn right next to it. Still get my screening that I needed.
So if a guy was in, it might be this guy, I'm not sure, but if a guy was going to plant this stuff, mentally you got to be thinking at least 2 years and probably 3 years before it gets to.
Yeah, I'd
Like,
say
before you see 10 to 12 feet.
I'd say 3 to 4 is a good time period. I mean, 3 with good soil. I mean, I wouldn't say you couldn't see maybe 8 to 12 feet, and then after that, it just, like I said, it really depends on your soil. It also depends on your maintenance. You don't want to mow it for the first 2 years. The third year, you can mow it down and just kind of it's kind of like burning a CRP field basically at that point. You could also burn it. It will not hurt the plant after 3 years, they're saying. I mean, I think the best, it all depends on what a guy would rather do, but I think the best thing you could do is probably mow it and then get that regrowth that next year
after 3 years.
after 3 years. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah. Is it easy to grow? I mean, is it what kind of maintenance is associated?
I mean, that spring, obviously, like I recommend getting a clean soil, so tilling it up. Obviously, once you till it, you should never have to till it again, where that miscanthus is going to be. So, till it up, get your plants in the ground, whether it be trenching it or using the tree planer, and then you get your pre-emerger on there. And then throughout the year, if you get any grasses, any broadleafs, 2,4-D, quinclorac, which is the crabgrass killer, foxtail killer, you can spray any of that. So it's manageable. You just got to keep an eye on it and make sure those weeds don't get to that 3 or 6 inch level. That's a big rule. If you let them get any taller than that, they can be harder to kill.
All right, so I got a question. It's probably anti your business, so I'm going to apologize on that up front, right?
No problem.
But let's say, hey, I wanted to plant, instead of 3 rows, I planted 4 rows,
Yeah.
right? I plant 4 rows for a specific reason, which I'm about to unveil. Can I plant this and dig it up and harvest it? You already answered my question. Darn it.
knows where you're going with it, doesn't he?
Legally, you can't. It's actually got a patent on it.
I'm just saying you can plant them further on your ground, right? I mean,
Correct. I think you could do that. Okay, yeah, that's probably a big,
not looking to
not as
sell
a big
it.
a deal. To
Yeah,
sell it, yeah,
No,
so
no.
that'd be the bigger deal.
I'm just harvest and replant continuing on. So hey, I'm gonna plant this 4th row, and I bought so much so far, and then hey, this 4th row is my harvest row. Then I'm gonna continue
Okay.
to extend my fence.
Yeah, and I understand that would be fine, in fact, but you are probably going to deter your growth for that year too, ever
sure.
digging it up or affecting the root system. So I think, I mean, I've heard guys just tilling right over it, getting the rhizomes and replanting it. But as far as success, I'm not sure if
Yeah,
what
for
they
sure.
had for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing that the roots on these things are
Still takes
pretty
2-3
heavy.
years.
When they're 3 or 4 or 5 years into it, I mean, you've got a pretty good root system.
Oh yeah,
that,
absolutely. And they're even the rhizomes. I mean, they're thick. I mean, it's hard to snap them. They're like sticks, like similar to the stems and the growths on them.
Sounds a lot to me like you said, like hops.
hop rhizomes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Payson, anything else that we've missed here from a screening standpoint? Anything that our audience should know?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. No.
This is super interesting, by the way. I think it's very intriguing.
No. I mean, I don't know if the guy's got the money. I've actually seen guys build berms of dirt, and oh yeah. I mean, I've seen it actually around my area. Guys
Wow.
and even talked about doing it just because of, maybe not wanting to plant something, just build a big dirt wall and let it grow up and whatever, and have a big screen to their farm. So, I mean, there's lots of options out there. If you've got the money, you can do a lot of things.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
For sure.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the key. All right, any questions for you, Timbo?
I don't actually. This has been great.
Well, certainly do appreciate you being on the show and appreciate sharing the knowledge. And I think you got one customer out of this for sure. This visit, I think I'm going to hit you up with some of this grass. So we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But till next time, folks, be safe, have fun,
and get outdoors.
Thanks for listening or watching our show. We have some exciting topics and guests coming up.
We ask that you subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
We look forward to hearing your suggestions for topics.
Questions and comments. This is Two Dumbasses signing off. Until next time,
Be safe,
have fun, and get
outdoors.
outdoors.